Space, the final frontier.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
Oh yeah, everybody, welcome to the Wonderful Black Hole of Sports podcast. This is a brand new podcast brought to you by thegamingtailgate.com. I am Jeremy, aka JB Huskers. I'm going to be here to bring you a lot of the happenings in the world of sports, both good and bad, my own takes on the issues. We're going to, just kind of take a look at everything all around from the NBA, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and probably not tennis, as some people had mentioned on the Gaming Tailgate thread for this show. We probably won't be talking too much tennis unless it's what Maria Sharapova is wearing. Basically, the name, The Wonderful Black Hole of Sports, I just kind of took it off of the old ABC's Wide World of Sports. Thought it'd be kind of a somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek type of thing, as the world of sports is a wonderful black hole for everybody to kind of get sucked into. Speaking of sucking NBA and the NFL right now, that's what we're going to take a look at first. Both the NBA and the NFL are currently locked out. The NFL over 100 days. The NBA just started locking out. Unfortunately, it looks like the NBA's situation is much worse than the NFL. At least there's some sort of hope that at least a little something is going to get worked out in the NFL. Probably at worst we're going to lose preseason, but I mean, nobody really cares about the preseason unless you're a hardcore gambler. Then maybe you might be looking at those lines. The NBA, though, is a big problem right now. A lot of it, of course, has to do with money. And if you're talking over a 10-year period, right now both sides are $7 billion apart in their negotiations of where each side wants to be. And that obviously is the biggest trigger of the lockout right now. Players are currently making 56% of the revenue. And because of this, the owners are just losing money left and right. A stat came out, a very surprising stat, had just come out right at the end of the season that stated 22 out of 30 NBA teams lost money in the 2010-2011 NBA season. And my only thinking of why so many teams in the league lost money during that season, I'm assuming they probably all bought into MySpace, and then when they finally, sold it for only $30 million when they bought it for $600 million, and maybe that's their excuse that they're losing money left and right. So they got to lock the players out because the players are making too much money. Well, the contracts are really ridiculous. So the lockout, there's talk that there just may not be a season altogether. That's just how far away the two sides are. Fortunately, they're going to talk here in about 2 weeks. Of course, as we've seen with the past 100 days, the NFL talking is not really going to get you anywhere. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of resolution, but right now it just looks completely ugly on that situation. One of the major things here coming up is, of course, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. The Midsummer Classic is coming up. The voting for the All-Star game ended just the other day. The voting is going to be announced on July 3rd, which is this Sunday. And so I kind of wanted to share you my own ballot. Even I filled it out about a week or so ago. Even now, to this day, when I was typing up the notes for this show, I kind of gave myself a little bit of second guessing on a couple of these guys, just based on a couple of guys just having some monster couple of weeks here. But overall, I'm pretty happy and pretty firmly set with who I chose here. We'll start out with first base. Obviously, the easy choice here would be Adrian Gonzalez, but with a loaded Boston lineup, I actually decided to go with Paul Konerko. Konerko is currently batting .321 for the White Sox, second in the AL in home runs. He's basically single-handedly keeping the White Sox in that AL Central. I believe they're about 4 games out of the race, with Detroit and Cleveland kind of playing tag at the top of the division. So the White Sox are definitely not that far out. They were actually my pick preseason to win the Central. And the main reason why they are still in it is due to the fact that Konerko is just tearing the cover off the ball. In the NL side, I go with Prince Fielder, the son of the big daddy Cecil Fielder. He is currently batting .302, and he also leads the NL in both home runs and RBI. So for me, Fielder definitely a shoo-in for the NL first base slot. Going over to second base, the Pinstripes, Robinson Cano, clearly the best second baseman in the game, I believe, leads the AL in both home runs, or actually leads the AL in home runs and is second in RBIs on a loaded lineup, but he's far and away the best second baseman in the AL. In the NL, Ricky Weeks, who I actually wrote a little article on for Fantasy Baseball, predicted that he'd have a big year this year, and he's actually the top NL second baseman in Fantasy Baseball. In the real stats, he is second in the National League in home runs and leads the majors in runs scored. So in that potent Milwaukee lineup, there's another Brewer, Ricky Weeks, there I have at second base. Shortstop, a young guy that definitely people had known he was going to have a lot of talent, and he's definitely showing that this year with a breakout campaign. Asdrubal Cabrera, the dude with a very weird first name, kind of like, if you watch the MLB Network, you'll see Ubaldo Jimenez in a shop looking through these license plates with names looking for Ubaldo. I think Asdrubal is probably in the same boat. He's probably maybe going to do a follow-up commercial with Ubaldo to see if he can find himself a license plate with his name. But he's on my all-star ballot because he leads the AL in both home runs and RBIs. He's definitely got a potent bat for a position at short, which is usually a fairly weak position, and that's why I've got Troy Tulowitzki as my NL shortstop representative on my ballot. Now, when I did this, I kind of compared Tulowitzki with Jose Reyes, and then Jose Reyes decided to just have a monster couple of weeks. So if I would have filled out the ballot today, I probably would have put Jose Reyes in there just because he's just having that gigantic season. But I decided to go with Troy Tulowitzki because at the shortstop position, he leads the majors in home runs and RBIs on that Colorado Rockies team. So he's not a bad choice over Jose Reyes, even though Jose Reyes is actually, all in all, having an MVP type of season, keeping the Mets barely over 500. So, it's kind of a flip a coin situation there. Third base in the AL, no surprise, A-Rod is my ballot there, as he always is. He's producing. He's near the top in home runs and RBIs. If you compare him to some guys, there's a lot of guys that are eligible at third base that are playing a lot of different positions. Like Jose Bautista just recently went to third base again, but he's mainly been an outfield player this year, so you'll hear him later on in my ballot. So that's why I got A-Rod there. I got A-Ram in the NL. The NL third base is just very weak. It's a very weak class this year. The only other candidate that I could have put in here was Chipper Jones, but A-Ram has actually been having a pretty good month for the Chicago Cubs. He's right now tied for the NL lead in home runs, and he's third in RBIs among all third basemen. Going down to the catcher's position here, a name that's not a household name, which means he probably won't get the popular vote for the All-Star game, and that is Alex Avila from Detroit. He is currently fourth in the AL in home runs among catchers, and he's also he's got a great batting average. He's at .303, and the other guys ahead of him in home runs, their average of the three is only batting .225. That includes the likes of like Carlos Santana. He also leads the AL among catchers and RBIs, so that's why I went with Alex Avila at the catcher position. In the NL, it's a no-brainer. Of course, with Buster Posey getting hurt, it definitely was easy for Brian McCann to steal those votes over for maybe the vote of the world champion, because McCann is just simply dominating the competition. He leads the majors among catchers and RBIs, 7 more than the second place guy in Miguel Montero out of Arizona. He's currently batting .314 and also leads the majors in among catchers by 4 in home runs. With 14, Chris Iannetta from Colorado has 10. For the AL DH spot, I went with Big Papi from the Boston Red Sox. There's no competition here, really. I mean, his only competition would have been maybe Vladimir Guerrero, who had a hot 2010. But in Baltimore, I figured he was going to have a big season, but he did not start that way. He'll may be able to turn it up by after the All-Star break, but for my ballot, Big Papi, 17 homers on the year, ranks him 6th overall in the American League, and he's batting .305. So Big Papi, definitely my DH vote there. In the outfield, definitely two guys that are definitely a shoo-in for the All-Star ballot with Jose Bautista and Curtis Granderson. Bautista, we all thought he might have been a one-hit wonder after that 50-plus home run season he had last year. Currently leads the majors with 24 home runs, batting .326. So he's a no-brainer from Toronto to be in the outfield. Curtis Granderson is having an MVP-type season. He's currently got 21 home runs, 14 stolen bases, and 70 runs. He's basically the best player in the AL right now, and he's one of the main reasons why the Yankees are at the top of the division this year. For my third guy, it was kind of a tough decision. I went with a guy that a little out in left field, even though he plays in right, Jacoby Ellsbury. He's on pace for a 2020 season. He currently has 9 homers and 40 RBIs, but he leads the AL in hits, 97. He's batting over 300. So I gave Ellsbury the third slot in that outfield. Over to the NL, we got 3 power guys here. First one is my MVP candidate right now, Matt Kemp of the LA Dodgers. He leads the NL in home runs with 22. He's third in the NL in stolen bases